Hello, gamers. Hello, noobs. Welcome to game number 35. And with me for this one is a very skilled player. His Giga Chill is very consistent and likes to fail them once. He has a ton of alts and ton of plat accounts. Previous tourney captain. Let's welcome Brian.
Hi, Pat. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And this is a duo plus game, so like a duo with worth more points, I think people will try hard a little bit more.
Yeah, good to see a lot of familiar faces. A lot of these people play a lot. The only person I'm not too familiar with is PTB. Um, did have that earlier Merlin game on the VC, which was pretty interesting.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah, it was Z1 to 3 was Assassin, I think. And
Yeah, with
Morgana, I forgot.
Jeb
Oh,
Jeb
Jetman.
Morg.
Yes, exactly. So, banning me from. Oh, so this is a duo game. So, players will actually consult what they're doing with their coaches. And Raf is definitely not consulting his chat with coach, which is something worth noting.
A little bit about Wrath, because I know him from SH. He's the type of person who likes to talk a lot, and not just as Res, even
Hmm.
when he would be fascist. He's just someone who likes to really get into the game, so I wouldn't be surprised if tries to type a lot this game. So 1.1 is pretty interesting. One of my things I always consider when somebody does a pick like 1.1 is always assume they're a little bit more res than spy because it's one of those really aggressive picks that gets you spied. Um, but you have to just wait and see how people treat the pick because it's one of those picks also that makes Wrath look better. If there's a lot of quick fails like M1, M2, and people just don't like cat fat, becomes like a quick like and the Wrath res team. Let's see what he picks.
Yeah, and 1.2 is a very standard pick. So is will 1.3 just unpick PTV and fuck it?
Yeah, I mean 1.1, 1.2 combo is resing PTB, and Wrath does not seem to care too much about 1.1, but he's giving decent info with that.
Also, one thing that you can note about 1.1 is that it's a very deliberate off pick. So like usually people I can see that where they just on off pick people that are close to you, because they're close in terms of mouse movement. Very meta read. Like if you want to off pick this is like a very deliberate movement.
Wow, this is
Oh,
very aggressive.
this is something I definitely didn't expect.
It could technically be correct because Wrath's pick kind of reses PTB more. So Ant can say like he can be claiming like even a team like Zigzag
But yeah,
with Pandas
no
spot.
teams with Pandemania right now.
Yeah.
So this is straight out spying Pandemania.
I don't know who Panda's coach is, obviously, but I've actually seen her personally do picks like 1.1 a decent amount as res. Because I think she's one of those players who's very scared to outspy. So when she does these like aggressive picks, um, she generally ends up being res. But because she has a coach, I'm really not that sure about that.
Hmm. That's a very interesting take. And so Antaria has a team with Pandemania actually. It's anti-PTB and RAF.
Uh, I don't think right hand side is clean this game just because there's already two hammer off picks with 1.1 and 1.2 where hammers are involved in those picks, and then 1.3 is just really aggressive. If it was like either right hand side PTB or right hand side cat fat, both of those teams just look so ugly. But I mean, I guess they're possible. It's just bad M1s,
You
but
know, also, I think Babble's coach, or perhaps Babbles, could be sharing your read on Pandemania.
this pick might get double spied. That's the thing, though. It's um
1.5 is gonna be Pandemania after 1.4. Ralph is
yeah.
gonna accuse by picking Pandemania and Babbles, probably. But I really could see anti-PTB and Ralph this game.
Really possible with how M1s went. If M2 fails, though, nobody's gonna like bubbles. I think at least on M3.
If M2 fails,
I think what a good 3.1 would be.
something with Ralph, I think.
Yeah, I think if 2.5 fails, Wrath should definitely be on M3s. I mean, to be fair, it's a little weird because 1.4 it reses Panda. That's why she's picked here. But M2 fails. It's like Bubbles is claiming like most of her teams are with Wrath. If like she doesn't still have Panda as res, but we'll see. I think PTP really, really doesn't like this 1.5 at all.
Yeah, so the
Prob-
one pick that I can see with 1.4 being correct and 2.5 failing for Bubbles is left hand side and Ralph. I think this is fully good with him once.
I kind of like this accuse actually. I think it's like it even has like a decent chance from his point of view of being clean.
It spies
It's kind of
Shiro from 1.2. That is
it
cat
is
fat.
pretty aggressive. It's going against 1.3 as well, but I thought 1.3 was pretty aggressive. So she just
Would be claiming
adds bubbles.
anti Antaria and Shiro this 2.1 with him once even. It's not
Could
right
just be
hand
like
side. Hmm?
could be just saying 1.3 is wrong, but
But interestingly enough, he didn't pick Bubbles in Pandemania, which is the cookie cutter accuse.
yeah. I don't think he's Merlin doing that. I think he might be. Honestly, thought PTB could be Percy accusing this because not that I think Catfat and Bubbles are two Merlin candidates necessarily, but
Told you about this pick by the way, when
yeah,
1.5 happened.
yeah. No, I mean I think a lot of people had that same read I did early about Panda being res with. It's one of those things that these really aggressive picks. It's something I taught Medusa a long time ago. Is that when you have a really aggressive pick on point one, right? But you just change the players here. Let's say like Wrath and Catfat were like
Hmm.
Axie and Pingu, for instance, and this same 1.1 happened. I would even be more inclined to call Panda res because the chances of her getting spied out of the game if she's spied with those people both being res is extremely high. It's like one of those weird like personal metas me and
Hmm.
um Fuzzle talked about once. It's just when a weaker player is like off picking two res, it's easy to get spied out of the game. Obviously, the players are different here, but it's still this is uh
This is
this is the
something. Buying BTB.
this is that accuse where you're just saying that M1 plus one isn't clean. You're not giving out who the spy is necessarily
But
in the three.
he's claiming bottom of this pick or he's just outing Spy?
I think he this pick can also spy Catfat. It's just like the reverse accuse that people do to not out Merlin. Do it and to not out Percy too. It's usually a pick a lot of people make when they're Percy and they just don't like someone on that mission.
What is
They're not claiming.
2.5 even now? everyone accused besides Pandemania.
I mean, if Bubbles is Merlin here, she sees Panda and Wrath are both res. I think that like you have decent odds of not getting shot with these M2s. Because every M2 would be telling you to pick Panda and Wrath. So
Yeah,
see. I mean,
especially 2.1.
yeah.
And Anne has spied Shiro with this pick. So yeah, Raf should be picked. Actually, Raf should be picked.
I mean, at the moment, Bubbles shouldn't like Ant and Catfat as two res, and then
And
if
Shiro
out
and
of those,
Pandemania probably also.
yeah, she should have one person out of those three that she really likes, and then it's weird. I guess you just kind of have to pick Panda because of 1.5. Then I mean, that's probably what I would do, but
I would probably repick 2.3 here. The other pick that I was thinking about is PTB and Raf, but I would just pick
that's
2.3.
I can be clean. I agree with you. That's like a very aggressive anti.
But then, is Antaria Spice with Shiro doing 2.4?
No, 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 no. I was thinking that
No.
in that universe, Panda could actually be Spy, but
Yeah,
um,
it would definitely be Panda and Catfat then. Because I just don't see 2.4 happening with Catfat co-spy.
she's really in the thing. Like, I'm wondering if Bubbles is like, I'm wondering if Bubbles is Morgana and her spy partner is on 2.4, like it's Ant or Catfat, and she just doesn't want to get morged. Or is if you're Merlin here, um, actually got a lot of help with picks, unless it's like
Hmm.
um M1 clean, but Panda still doesn't accuse, so you can still pick. So I'm just gonna say Bubbles is like spy slash not Merlin. Wow, okay, this is I don't think this might float. We'll
No,
see if
well,
this is blue.
this is a Merlin out.
This isn't a pick. This wonder who Bubbles coaches. Ant isn't picking 2.4 because he wants 2.4 to be 2.5 actually. That's the
Well, there's
funny
one
part.
question I can answer. It's Bingo.
Bubbles, Ant to Bubbles is not Percy to Ant. Bubbles isn't Percy to Catfat. Um, this pick is very sus. It's like it's just kind of like Bubbles is VT with a read.
Maybe to
Um,
Pandemania. And it's like
that's
Bubbles to PTB and Pandemania, sees 2.1. And like,
ETB and Panda. Yeah, yeah, that's actually it's very possible. She is Percy.
he sees 2.1. But like then 1.1 into this pick is strange anyway,
That's
because
that's that's actually you made a very very good point. 2.4 is actually like the Pingu pick. So if Pingu's the coach, he might like 2.4 because I see Pingu do these like cookie cutter accuses a lot.
Boomrat.
Yeah, well, I
Oh.
did not expect that to be clean, but I really expected it to float if Bubbles was a spy. So she might still be.
Oh, and left hand Seraph. Yeah, I mentioned that team that this is the only Bubbles team after the 2.5 would fail, but on Animania, Catfit, and Bubbles.
I mean, she took Panda off already, and it was mostly like if you don't like Panda, you like Wrath. So I mean, this is a snap pick, just pretty interesting.
Not consulted with coach or consulted beforehand.
I think consulted before is this is kind of like a
But like 2.1 happened, picked Panda. Raf also picked Panda. She wasn't on 2.5, which failed, and Panda isn't on M3. Hmm.
if this is the team though. Wrath is not. He shouldn't be necessarily Merlin. I'm trying to think who. But yeah, like somebody to PTB is definitely possible. PTB doesn't want to app, so this is probably not clean.
Like he's still
Um,
thinking, still thinking, but you know, like voting times in duo games aren't really that indicative because people will talk with their coaches, like, do I up clean even? could be a
I think
valid
this
question.
passes. I think Bubbles has to app this. I think
Bubbles has to,
Wrath.
yes.
Okay, well,
And Catfat is Merlin. Fuck it.
Cat Fat. I don't know why. I didn't think it was clean, but
I think this would be a very good pick if Pandemania would be on 2.5. But since Panda wasn't, I really think that Bubbles really likes Pandemania.
well, this is a logical pick because Wrath's 1.2 doesn't antagonize Panda. Just I don't like how everybody's picking Bubbles after 2.5 failed. It's a
Seems like
very bad pick.
Bubbles is
Uh,
just Russ
Yeah, I
because they
mean,
are involving Bubbles.
yeah, exactly. That's what I thought too. Because if you're picking
Maybe
someone who made a
2.3 was clean, and maybe this is just clean. Yep.
oh yeah. So this is what I kept bringing up. 1.2 is just it's one of those picks that makes Panda look good. Because he just got highly antagonized by Panda on 1.1 and he just ignores it. PTB rejects 3.1, not Merlin on it. It's weird because I know that PTB opened Merlin the game on the PC chat. Like he just said, okay, I'm gonna pick top
Hmm.
when it wasn't obvious. So curious what his role is. He doesn't have to be Merlin. But it's interesting. Maybe he just decided to put Bubbles on because she was on 3.1. Um,
Bubbles to Rav they're looking at.
I was wrong about one thing. No, actually, no. Sorry, I said the opposite. I did say that Ant would most likely be, or sorry, I said Bubbles would most likely be spy, but it was actually the other two who were spies. That's the part I got wrong because when I saw it 2.4, thought that like it had potential to be two spies with like a half-baked accused, but I thought that Ant would be spies with Bubbles in that world when M2 fails. But
Do you
I guess
think it's ever PTB's 2.1 I think is PR and
um
PTB to RAF
I,
is something I'm looking at like
I
2.5
think
would be 3 VTs.
I think it really depends on the coach because I was saying that I thought 2.1 should be before I even picked it should be Panda and Wrath.
Uh,
So it really depends on the coach because it's just a logical pick. I know like he's not picking Hammer, but it's not like he's spying Bulls necessarily. But I think that Merlin could even be in right hand side. 1.1 and 1.2 really help Rez get the team. Um,
1.1
obviously,
yes, and also PTB could also be Maryland. It makes sense that 2.1 was logical, but if you're Maryland, then you might still as well pick that.
I'm gonna rule out Bubbles for sure because I think she had free clean pick on
Oh
M2.
yeah, yeah, I would repick 2.3 on 2.5. Yep.
Well, not even just 2.3, like 2.4 is telling you to pick 2.3. Like I don't know what I think like Ant kind of threw with 2.4. I mean that's why Res found the team very fast, but just I can't get my mind off of 2.2 because 2.5 is a really bad pick. Um, she gets rezzed. Maybe Cat Fat guess they gunned Cat Fat for that, and they like Bubbles. I'm trying to think. PTB Percy to who, if he ever is.
I'm
Potentially to Panda.
thinking PTB to Panda, but then accusing 2.1. No, I don't think that he's accusing 2. He's picking 2.1 as Percival to
Well,
Panda.
the thing is about 2.4 is that Antaria is making in that world right hand side look clean. Um, but he
Why
did,
is
but he did
3.5 isn't getting ups?
did whatchamacallit, he did a 1.3. So Antaria actually world outed Morg if it is PTB because claiming right hand side on M2, and he's claiming uh B and Panda aren't two res on M1. So whoever's Percy this game shouldn't like Arya anyways. I can't imagine Bubbles is Percy
Hmm.
either. Um,
Yeah, it doesn't seem to me like it's Bubbles to PTB and Antaria because then really 2.3 should be loved because 1.3 is telling him that Pandemania is res and PTB is picking 2.1. So if I'm Percival in Bubbles'
yeah,
position, you pick 2.3.
exactly. That's exactly why I thought that she's VT because she just had a free pick. Not even outing Percy because 2.1 happened, 2.3 happened,
But what
and
about Bubbles to Raf? Rejecting 3.1, or maybe even PTB to Raf, rejecting 3.1.
that's pretty legitimate. PTB to Wrath and Antaria, where Antaria's literally resing Wrath with his M2. That's definitely. I mean, yeah, I might be down to go with that exact line. I'm thinking about it. See what the spies are saying.
Oh, yes, that's a good point. Let's see, because we have arrived at some conclusions. Let's see what they are thinking about.
Bubbles
2.1 is
depend.
like pretty huge. 3.2.1 and 3.2 are possibly picked by VT. Well, possibly is a very correct term here.
I don't know how much I agree with that because 2.1 is a pretty easy pick. He's Percy to Panda because he already has Ant Morg, and then like after he sees 2.4, I imagine whoever PTB's coaches is just like, okay, we don't like Ant this game, so um, there's reasons not to like Catfat seat. Well, he doesn't have 3.1 either. Oh, the coaches, but let's just say it's like Pingu. I wonder if he thinks he's dead. If he picks Panda and Wrath, I just
Yeah, I just literally started thinking about the same. Is Bubbles Merlin doing this
but like
because, you know,
I don't understand why this right hand side PTB doesn't work. If PTB's Percy, 3.1 just looks horrible. I think like Spies really kind of lost this game at 3.1 because 3.1 is not PT should be making, especially after 2.5. I don't know why
after
she
2.5,
didn't.
yeah, fully
She,
agreed.
she should have just ripped top because Ant is kind of rising top without him
Oh,
anyways, and it's just
definitely top. Would be such a huge pick. Mm.
Wrath can just be PR. Percy, he can just be PR for just rejecting and only because 2.1's kind of like a really aggressive pick, unless he's just Percy, he sees Catfat's ET picking it, and he's
Raf to
just like, hell,
PTB. Raf to no, because then if it's Raf to PTB, then he sees his Merlin accuse, and it's about to see the three VTs. I think he would also accuse. Oh, he
a
did
rat.
accuse. Raf to PTB.
Yeah, I mean, Wrath cannot like 3.1 at all, and he apps 3.2 as well.
Well, if
Like
it's
Bubbles,
Raf to PTB, then he will of course approve 3.2.
but does Bubbles to PTB ever pick 2.5? Who's Bubbles coach? That seems highly.
Bubbles is Pingu.
I don't think Pingu picks 2.5 as first seed of PTV. I mean, like he likes Ant doing 2.4, but
Yeah, but I'm thinking about Raf to PTB.
how likely is Ant as Merlin to do the flip accuse? That's like one of those accuses people make more as VT, where you don't pick the person who's on picked. He sees him as a Merlin candidate. That's it's a world. It's a very shady world to be Percival. Speak mad about him.
Hmm.
He didn't seem that mad about it. And he didn't pick something that makes him mad about it, in
You
fact.
know, I think that Raf. Because 3.1 has just one Merlin if it's Wrath. And if PTB is Percival to Wrath, I'm not sure that he rejects 3.1.
I don't think he does either, actually. That's a very good point, because
And the Mania to Wrath with 1.1? I don't think I like that.
no, that's that's very aggressive. I don't know.
Bubbles to Wrath? Because this is the last Percival line for Wrath.
I mean, people make jokes about me being like Percy Otter sometimes, but like I even think like off picking two Merlins there would be better, just because it's 1.1. She has a coach. She can be quiet. Obviously, when you do that, you have to play a certain way. But I think you're going against the whole board at the point as Percival, which is, yeah. I mean, it's very shocking that I think it's just mainly 3.1, but it's mainly shocking that Bubbles is just getting teams after 2.5. But because everybody was indicating, like the entire lobby, all six players, well, except for Bubbles, all five players are indicating like at least pick one of Panda and Wrath, and she picked neither. I mean, I guess like in a sense, the coaches might think, oh, she's outing Rez with this pick because this pick gets her spied in Oblivion. It's like that reverse psychology thing
Mm-hmm.
Manu always talks about, where pick is so bad that it has to be Rez if like people aren't just outright spying her, which they weren't. Like she got picked on 3.1. That's why you said she was Rez right away, which makes sense, I guess. I
When I
just
saw
think that like
3.2, when I saw 3.2, I was thinking she's Res. 3.1, I think, isn't enough.
yeah, I mean you called it clean too, which is good read because 1.1, 1.2. They're both really. I don't know if like they're Merlin, but they're both kind of res each other. On the M2 fail, M2 failed, and then it's a good slam, anyways. It is PTB. It's not an obvious Merlin for that after 3.1, surely.
I don't see any good combo right now. I can't find just a valid, solid combo that would make sense and explain the game without any like crazy assumptions.
I think Bubbles is VT. Maybe. I think there's a Percival in. Like I agree with you now. I don't think PTB the Wrath is legitimate. You brought the
And
point about PTB to Panda doing 2.1. I mean, I
Panda to
can see him doing
PTB.
it.
Panda to PTB is something I'm considering right now. 1.1 would be off picking two VTs. 1.4 would be like left intact.
In that world, 1.2 and 1.4 happened as two VTs. Well, I mean, Bubbles is VT, we know that, but
And
very good
1.2
M1s.
is yeah, flip pick. I mean, not a flip pick, but a pick that just rushes PTB.
Yeah.
But Vrav doesn't have a good Percival. Babbles to Wrath is like the only combo I killed all of the other combos. Babbles to
Yeah, I
Wrath I
mean,
can kinda see, but it just assumes 2.5, which I'm not a
it,
fan of.
it should it should just be Panda then if all of those combos are dead, but I don't. PTB the Panda actually does work, even though I didn't like it that much. Wrath Panda works too if you have like the same kind of like social read I did, that okay, 1.1 is very aggressive, probably res, and even kind of soft res is Panda. Or like it just be like, okay, I don't agree with Catfat being spy with Panda and Panda being 1.1 more, he would do 1.2 as Percy. That seems very bad.
Wait, I just have an idea. What if it's Bubbles to Wrath and he sees 1.1, but instead of thinking like you that it's a very aggressive pick, so it's likely to be Res, she thinks the opposite. She thinks
This is
this
a
is a
spy.
spy pick and it's off picking to Res. No,
That's actually what most people do, because they're like, okay, well, here's a
not to
spy. They're trying
Res.
to they're trying to hammer block a res and get
And
on get on missions.
yeah, and he might be thinking it's Bubbles to Wrath and Antaria. She might be thinking it's like Panda and Raf, so that's why he's picking 2.5 because PTB picked 2.1, so we can't pick PTB.
But if that's true, right, why doesn't she app 3.1 then? She's already going under that
Hmm.
logic,
Good
which is
point.
a little. I mean, she could have just changed her mind.
Yeah.
She could have changed her mind at that point. Well, no, I mean that's definitely possible. She's like, okay, well, you would have Anta spy anyways, because 2.5. That's the interesting part.
And you would get Hammer if it fails, as Bubbles. Hmm, yeah.
Bubbles had some kind of a read. So Panda and Antaria are off.
Hmm.
So at 3.1 for sure, 100%. Bubbles has Panda as res, rejecting 3.1. She's only apping teams with Panda after 3.1, and she also did a 1.4. So at that point, she's double resing Panda. Um, like I said earlier, she could have the read. She thinks Wrath is res because of 1.1, which is very logical after M2 fails.
Hmm.
Maybe she's just only down to app 3.2, which was picked. What's the other team? Right hand side bubbles, but Ant did. I guess that works, right? Because Ant did 2.4, which reses right hand side. So I guess she was just okay with only apping those teams if she's Percy to Wrath. No, but she has Percy info. She knows that's not clean. She knows the right
Oh,
hand side. Yeah, so like Bubbles to Wrath knows that 3.2 is their only team, actually.
really?
Which is pretty interesting. Yeah. It's very interesting because she doesn't consider 3.1 with Wrath being in. She likes Panda.
Oh, yes, because
I just
1.2 would be good. He can assume that 1.1 is good.
well, she has Ant as Morgan. Wrath did
And then,
2.3,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
and then
she has
accuse. So he knows PTBs, Russ.
yeah, she knows 3.2 is actually Wrath's team because Wrath would just so I mean yeah, it works. If you think Wrath is Merlin, Bubbles Percy works too.
And that to
I
PTB
wonder
or Bubbles to Russ are my
the
favorite combos.
only way you pick 2.5 by the way is if you think Antaria is just flat out res and just
Hmm.
outing Merlin. But I and that's what you said on 2.4. You said Ant is outing Merlin. I don't understand that logic because when you make picks like 2.4, you're not actually indicating they're clean. You're just indicating that M1 plus 1 has a spy. And she already did 1.4 soft resing Panda. It's just very unusual. As the bubbles also explains 1.2 shameless Percy off pick. But Antaria reses Catfat in that line, right? And Wrath accuses
Hmm.
before Wrath does 2.4. So I mean I guess it's 3 VTs. Just completely outing Percival. ETB Panda and Catfat are 3 VTs, but don't know about that.
There's some strange actions.
Don't know if Wrath would just completely open Percy this entire game to Bubbles. And then Bubbles gets Merlin for 2.5. That's a low percentage shot for sure.
Yeah, like all of the combos, like assume some strange shit. Besides Panda to
I
PTB,
mean
I
the
think Panda
spies
to
are
PTB is very simple and cookie cutter.
yeah, spies are very flustered on this shot. They're going over some combos that are just we went over two combos now I've seen that are just very out there, just highly unlikely.
PTB
It's
to
just
Bubbles? After 2.5, you're not picking 3.2. I don't think so. Or maybe
really
because Antaria is outed spy?
okay.
PTB
Let's
to
check that
Bubbles.
line.
PTB to Bubbles. So Antaria is claiming what?
Why does PTB hate Antaria this game? PTB the bubbles. Let's see.
It could be
So
Zigzag, I think, if it's PTB to Antaria Bubbles. Anti-Bubbles
it's
Pandamania.
it's weird because 2.5 res Antaria, in PTB's world, all of the information matches because he off picked 1.3 and then she took Panda off and it failed. That's
Yeah, and picks 2.1 after 1. I'm not a
That
fan of that line, really.
that that's literally the only way that works is if you're literally reading Bubbles res on a read only. The VH is literally so much better for Ontaria because of 2.4, 2.5. PTB knows Ontaria's team is right hand side. I don't know. I
Well,
know a
to
lot of
be
people.
honest, I wouldn't shoot bubbles on the principle that 3.1 wasn't top.
Yeah. I mean,
Because, go on.
I think this game would have been way easier for Spies if 3.1 didn't happen. It's making somebody
Wait,
who's
wait, wait, I'm gonna GM Ralph fast. Fuck it. Because
just
they're
gonna.
about to shoot.
Oh,
I don't know, like, I prefer this line.
you're right. Oh yeah, we
Oh,
were
it was
right.
PTB to
Oh,
Wrath.
was yeah, we were right about both parts. It was VTV to Wrath taking 3.2, so we had it right all along.
I
I
was
mean,
actually thinking it's Bubbles to Wrath, though.
I
Funny.
had Bubbles as confirmed VT because I just feel like 2.5 is so bad as Percy to Ant. Like, it's not correct. You're supposed to pick Panda and
And Wrath.
but she sees Wrath as Merlin and she wants to pick Ant. Why not just Panda and Ant? I mean, I guess that's pretty aggressive, but like you eat the shot if you have Ant as Merlin.
And you're
Pretty sure
very
Bubbles.
correct in 1.1.
But you saw 1.2, right? It's like soft resing Panda because like he antagonized him and just doesn't care. PTB sees that. Um, one thing that we both kind of considered was you thought that PTB would app 3.1 as per Cedar. I kind of thought that too. That was one thing that was
Mm-hmm.
weighing on my head. Even though we had that exact combo, I think it's just PTB sees Catfat as a gun for picking 3.1. Like, why are you picking Bubbles?
Yeah.
Bubbles rezzed Panda on 1.4. Um, 3.1 should have Panda no matter what if it has Bubbles, because Bubbles is claiming her last team is with Panda, but
Yep, definitely. Should be top or maybe Zigzag. No, not
I mean,
Zigzag, even just top.
this Cat Fat just outed Spy, and PTB's like, okay, well, Wrath is way more res because of 2.4 this game. Just
That
picks
was a
it.
strong Percival performance.
Yeah, I mean, every pick was correct on M1. 2.1 was a very good accuse. It was the logical accuse, but it has a Merlin on it, so kind of soft on Percying there just a little bit. He solves the game on 2.4 and 3.1. He gets all the info he needs. It's a good game by the Res.
Yep,
Sure.
awesome game. Well, we won,
Yeah,
and
we had the right lines, exact lines.
yep.
That's good.
So I think this is it, and we can wrap up the game. So thank you for
Okay.
featuring, and thank you for watching, guys.
Thank you so much, Pat.